The mockery, the massive Sarkonian dreadnought, eternal conquest, hung in Earth's orbit like a metallic moon, its hull bristling with weapons that could crack continents. War Marshal Vector stood on the command bridge, his scaled hands clasped behind his back as he surveyed the pathetic sight before him. Earth's orbital defenses consisted of a handful of aging space stations and some missile platforms that looked like they belonged in a museum. This is what they call resistance. Vector S's voice carried the rough growl typical of his reptilian species. His yellow eyes gleamed with predatory satisfaction. Ambassador, are you certain this planet contains the resources we seek? Ambassador, this is smaller and more diplomatic than the War Marshal, but equally reptilian, consulted his datapad. The surveys are conclusive. War Marshal, Earth possesses vast deposits of rare minerals, particularly in the polar regions. The humans have barely scratched the surface of their world's potential and their technology. Vector gestured toward the view screen showing Earth's defensive positions. Primitive, Commander Zactor reported from his station. Their most advanced weapons are chemical-based projectiles and basic energy shields. Our defensive systems could withstand their entire arsenal for decades without significant damage. Vector's mandibles clicked in amusement. The Sarkonian Empire had conquered 43 star systems over the past century. Each world had fallen within days, sometimes hours, of their arrival. Earth would be no different. The humans had been given the standard ultimatum: surrender and accept mining operations on their world, or face orbital bombardment. They had foolishly chosen resistance. Sir, the communications officer interrupted. We're receiving a transmission from the human leadership. Put it through. Let's hear their final plea for mercy. The view screen shifted to reveal a middle-aged human woman in a crisp military uniform. Captain Alina Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Force looked directly at Vector, her dark eyes showing no fear despite the impossible odds she faced. War Marshal Vector, she began, her voice steady and professional. I am Captain Rodriguez, speaking on behalf of Earth's unified government. We've reviewed your demands, and our answer remains unchanged. Earth is not for sale. Vector laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the bridge. Captain Rodriguez, you seem to misunderstand your situation. Your world's defenses are toys compared to our firepower. Surrender now, and your people will be treated fairly as we extract what we need. We understand our situation perfectly, Rodriguez replied. What I don't think you understand is that what you see around Earth isn't our defense system. Those platforms and stations, they're just early warning systems. Early warning for what? Ambassador Desist stepped forward, intrigued despite himself. Rodriguez hesitated for a moment, then sighed deeply. For what sleeps beneath our ice? The bridge erupted in laughter. Even the normally composed Ambassador Desist allowed himself a chuckle. Vector wiped tears from his eyes. Sleeping under ice. What manner of primitive superstition is this? It's not superstition, Rodriguez said quietly. It's a covenant that's lasted 50,000 years. War Marshal, I'm transmitting coordinates to Antarctic Research Station Omega-7. Dr. Sarah Mitchell can explain better than I can. Please, for your own sake, listen to her. Vector was about to cut the transmission when his sensor officer spoke. Up, sir. I'm detecting unusual seismic activity on the planet's southern continent. The readings are ... significant. Put this Dr. Mitchell on screen, Vector ordered. His amusement fading slightly. The image changed to show a young woman with short blonde hair, her face pale but determined. Behind her, banks of scientific equipment beeped and flashed urgently. War Marshal Victor, I'm Dr. Sarah Mitchell, Chief Researcher at Omega-7. I need to explain something to you, and I need you to listen carefully. Speak quickly, human. My patience wears thin. Mitchell took a shaky breath. 50,000 years ago, before human civilization as you know it existed, Earth was visited by beings of immense power. We call them the Ancient Ones. They weren't conquerors like you. They were explorers, scientists, philosophers. They found early humans and were fascinated by our potential. More fairy tales, Commander Zactor muttered. The Ancient Ones made a bargain with our ancestors, Mitchell continued. Ignoring the interruption, they would sleep beneath the Antarctic ice, waiting and watching. In exchange, they would protect Earth from existential threats and guide humanity's development. They taught us fire, agriculture, mathematics, all the foundations of civilization. Factor S. Patience snapped. Enough. Commander Zactor began orbital bombardment of their military installations. Let's end this charade, sir. The sensor officer called out urgently. The seismic activity is intensifying. I'm reading massive displacement under the Antarctic ice sheet. On the view screen, Dr. Mitchell's face showed pure terror. No, you don't understand. Your attack patterns, the energy discharges from your weapons, they're resonating at exactly the wrong frequency. You're waking them up. The first salvo of plasma fire streaked down toward Earth's orbital platforms. They vaporized instantly, just as expected. But as the energy dissipated into Earth's atmosphere, something unprecedented happened. The planet's magnetic field fluctuated wildly, and deep beneath the Antarctic ice, something stirred. Status report, Vactor barked. Sir, the entire Antarctic continent is registering seismic activity. It's not tectonic movement, it's something else. Something is moving down there, something massive. Ambassador Dices studied his instruments with growing concern. War Marshal, perhaps we should consider the humans' warning. The energy readings from the southern continent are unlike anything in our databases. Nonsense, Victor snarled. Continue the bombardment. I want their remaining defenses eliminated within the hour. But as the second wave of plasma fire struck Earth's atmosphere, the ice of Antarctica began to crack. Not randomly, but in perfect geometric patterns that stretched for hundreds of kilometers. The cracks glowed with an inner light that was visible. From orbit, a soft blue radiance that pulsed like a heartbeat. Dr. Mitchell's voice came through the communication channel, tight with panic. The resonance is building. War Marshal, you have to stop the bombardment now, or there won't be anything left of your fleet to retreat with. Impossible, Victor growled, but uncertainty crept into his voice as his sensors screamed warnings he'd never seen before. The ice sheet covering Antarctica began to rise, not breaking apart, but lifting as a single massive piece, as if something beneath it was stirring in its sleep. The Sarconian fleet's instruments went haywire as they tried to measure what was happening below. Sir, the sensor officer's voice was barely a whisper. The object beneath the ice. It's larger than our entire fleet combined. The mass readings are off the scale. Through the cracks in the ice, more light began to seep out. Not the harsh white of Earth's sun or the red glow of Sarconian plasma weapons, but something else entirely. Colors that had no names, wavelengths that shouldn't exist, light that seemed to bend reality around itself. Captain Rodriguez's voice cut through the chaos on the bridge. War Marshal, you still have time to withdraw. The Ancient Ones are slow to wake, But once they're fully conscious, what are you talking about? Vector demanded, but his voice lacked its earlier confidence. The Covenant, what Marshal, humanity agreed to be the guardians of Earth, to keep the Ancient Ones sleeping peacefully. In return, they would protect us from any threat we couldn't handle ourselves. You're about to discover that your invasion falls firmly into that category. The Antarctic ice sheet cracked completely open, revealing an abyss that seemed to extend far deeper than the planet's crust should allow. From within that impossible depth, something began to emerge. The Sarkonian sensors could barely process. What they were seeing, a form that defied conventional geometry, made of materials that shouldn't exist, pulsing with energies that violated known physics. All ships, prepare for immediate retreat, Vector commanded, but his fleet's hyperspace drives were already malfunctioning, unable to establish stable jump points in the presence of whatever was rising from Earth's depths, the Ancient Ones. Awakening sent shockwaves through space-time itself. Across the solar system, gravitational fields fluctuated, and the very fabric of reality rippled like water disturbed by a massive stone. The Awakening, the first Ancient One to fully emerge from the Antarctic depths, defied every law of physics the Sarkonian Empire knew. It wasn't simply large, though its form stretched across what had once been an entire ice sheet. It wasn't simply powerful, though the energy readings coming from it made their most advanced reactors look like candles. It was something far more fundamental. Something that existed in dimensions the Sarkonian instruments couldn't even detect, let alone measure. Vector stared at the view screen in stunned silence as the being unfolded itself from the Earth. What he had taken for tentacles were actually extensions of space-time, reaching through dimensions to touch realities beyond his comprehension. What appeared to be eyes were windows into other universes, each one containing the birth and death of countless stars. "Impossible, Ambassador," Theseus whispered, his diplomatic composure finally cracking. Nothing that large could exist. The gravitational forces alone should collapse it into a black hole. It's not operating under our physics. Dr. Mitchell's voice came through the communication channel, her scientific training overriding her terror. The Ancient Ones exist partially outside normal spacetime. They're not bound by the same rules that govern matter and energy in our dimension. Commander Zactor struggled with his instruments as every system aboard the Sarkonian flagship began to malfunction. "Sir, our weapon systems are offline. Navigation is failing. It's like the things. Mere presence is disrupting our technology." The Ancient One began to fully manifest in their reality, and with its emergence came a sound that no living being should have been able to hear. It resonated not through air or space, but directly through the quantum foam that underlied all existence. The sound carried meaning, complex concepts that bypassed language entirely and spoke directly to consciousness itself. Why have we been disturbed? The question didn't come through any communication system. It simply appeared in the minds of every sentient being within a light year of Earth, delivered with the weight of eons and the patience of geological time. Captain Rodriguez's image appeared on the Sarkonian flagship's main screen. "War Marshal Vector, I'm going to explain something to you that your government needs to understand. 50,000 years ago, when the Ancient Ones first came to Earth, they were fleeing something. A war that spanned galaxies, fought between beings of such power that they could restructure reality itself. What does this have to do with us?" Vector demanded, though his voice had lost all its earlier arrogance. "The Ancient Ones were the survivors," Rodriguez continued. "They came to Earth not as conquerors, but as refugees. They chose to sleep, to wait until the universe had healed from the wounds of that ancient war. They made humans their guardians, teaching us what we needed to know to protect both them and ourselves. A second ancient one began to emerge from the depths, then a third. Each one was unique, shaped by eons of existence in realities that followed different rules. One appeared, to be made of crystallized time, its surface reflecting moments from past and future simultaneously. Another seemed to exist as pure mathematical concept, its form shifting through geometric impossibilities that hurt to perceive directly. The small ones fire their primitive weapons. The first ancient one communicated, its attention turning toward the Sarkonian fleet. They disturb the deep harmonies. Why do they wake us with violence? Dr. Mitchell's voice trembled as she answered, somehow able to communicate with the beings. The Sarkonians are trying to conquer Earth. They want to strip mine our planet for resources. We tried to warn them, but they wouldn't listen. The ancient one's attention focused on the Sarkonian flagship, and Vector felt his mind probed by an intelligence that had witnessed the birth of galaxies. In that moment, every thought he'd ever had, every decision that had led him to Earth, every cruel conquest in his military career, lay bare before the being's ancient wisdom. This one has brought pain to many worlds, the ancient one observed. Its kind spreads like a plague, consuming and destroying without understanding. They are young and foolish, but they can learn. Please, Ambassador Desis stepped forward, his diplomatic training finally finding its voice. We didn't know. If we had understood what Earth truly was, we would never have come here. Allow us to withdraw, and we'll ensure that no Sarkonian ship ever approaches this system again. The second ancient one, the one made of crystallized time, turned its impossible geometry toward the ambassador. Words spoken in fear carry little weight. Your species has made such promises before, to other worlds, other peoples. We have seen your future paths, and many lead to further destruction. General Marcus Chen's image joined Captain Rodriguez on the communication channel. Ancient ones, honored guardians, we ask for your wisdom in this matter. How should we deal with these invaders? The third ancient one, the living mathematical concept, shifted through several dimensional configurations before responding. The young species learns through consequence. They understand only strength. Show them what they have awakened. What happened next would be talked about in whispers throughout the Sarkonian Empire for generations to come. The first ancient one extended one of its space-time appendages toward the Sarkonian fleet. It didn't attack in any conventional sense. Instead, it simply demonstrated the difference between their technology and its power. The flagship's most powerful weapons, designed to crack planets, fired at full power at the ancient one. The energy beams struck its surface and were absorbed, without trace, as if they had never existed. In response, the ancient one gently touched the Sarkonian dreadnought Eternal Conquest. The ship wasn't destroyed. Instead, it was transformed. In the space of a heartbeat, the mighty warship became something beautiful, its weapons converting into scientific instruments, its armor plating flowering into crystalline structures that pulsed with soft, harmless light. The crew found themselves unharmed but profoundly changed. Their minds expanded to comprehend realities they had never imagined. Violence transformed to understanding. The Ancient One explained, weapons become tools of learning. This is the way of growth. Across the Sarkonian fleet, the same transformation rippled outward. Warships became research vessels, weapon systems converted to deep space telescopes and dimensional scanners. The reptilian crews found their aggressive instincts, tempered by sudden insight into the interconnectedness of all life. War Marshal Victor collapsed into his command chair, tears streaming down his scaled face as he understood, for the first time in his violent life, the true cost of conquest. "What have we done?" he whispered. "All those worlds, all those people, you've learned," Captain Rodriguez said gently. "That's the first step toward redemption." The Ancient Ones began to communicate among themselves, their thoughts exchanged at speeds that made light seem sluggish. Finally, the first one addressed both the humans and the transformed Sarkonians. The awakening was necessary. The young species must understand their place in the greater pattern. "We return to our rest, but we leave a gift. The crystallized time." Ancient One pulsed with inner light, and suddenly both human and Sarkonian minds were filled with knowledge. Not technology or weapons, but understanding. The mathematics of peaceful coexistence, the science of sustainable development, the philosophy of growth without destruction. Earth's guardians have proven worthy, the mathematical Ancient One added. The covenant continues, but now it extends. Beyond one world, all who learn the deeper truths become guardians in their turn. Ambassador Dizis found his voice, though it shook with emotion. "What would you have us do?" "Return to your empire," the first Ancient One replied. "Share what you have learned. Transform your conquest into exploration, your weapons into instruments of discovery. Become guardians of wisdom rather than harbingers of destruction." As the Ancient Ones began to settle back into their deep slumber, the Antarctic ice reformed around them, but not as it had been before. Now it pulsed with gentle luminescence, a reminder to all who might approach that Earth was far more than it appeared to be. The Sarkonian fleet, transformed but not conquered, prepared to depart. War Marshal Victor, now carrying the title of Exploration Marshal, addressed Captain Rodriguez one final time. "We will spread word throughout the galaxy," he promised. "Earth is protected not by weapons, but by guardians of unimaginable wisdom. And perhaps, if we prove worthy, other worlds might find such protection as well." As the converted Sarkonian research fleet departed, heading back toward their empire with news that would transform galactic civilization, Dr. Mitchell monitored the Ancient One's return to slumber. The seismic activity gradually calmed, the dimensional fluctuations settled, and peace returned to Earth, but the universe had changed. Word of Earth's guardians spread through interstellar communication networks, carried by the transformed Sarkonians and confirmed by other species who had detected the massive gravitational and temporal disturbances of the Ancient Ones. Awakening.Earth was no longer seen as a primitive backwater world ripe for conquest. It had become something far more valuable, a beacon of hope that even the most powerful beings in the universe could choose wisdom over destruction, growth over conquest, guardianship over domination. The Ancient Ones slept once more beneath the Antarctic ice, but their brief awakening had sent ripples through space and time that would continue to spread for millennia to come. Humanity had proven themselves worthy guardians, and in doing so, had helped awaken something greater in the species that had once threatened them, in the depths of space. Other civilizations detected the echoes of that transformation and began to question their own paths toward wisdom or destruction. The universe itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see what would emerge from this new understanding. Between species separated by vast distances but united in their potential for growth, Earth's true defense had never been weapons or shields. It was the patient wisdom of those who sleep beneath the ice, and the courage of the guardians who watch over them. And now that guardianship was beginning to spread across the stars.